Hey there, everybody. I hope you're having a good day in your little corner of the world. Having a pretty good day in mine. It's clear blue skies, and it's so beautiful seeing the blue sky again as we're in the tail end of winter. You just really begin to remember and appreciate and see the magic in blue skies. When it's summer and it's blue skies every day or most of the days, you kind of forget the magic. But when they're first appearing after a long, dark, gloomy winter, it really makes a difference. And it just reminds me of the simple things and how the simple things can make life so magical, give magic to your life. But anyway, this isn't a video about blue skies. It's a video about culture and our ideas on culture and something called the patriarchy, which is a very debated topic. The definition of patriarchy is debated, and it depends on your kind of upbringing and I'm trying to look for a term, like your background. Depending on your background, you will be able to really understand what patriarchy means, because maybe you are on the other end of you got the blunt end of the stick, basically, and maybe you won't be able to understand patriarchy because you believe you've been raised or you were in an environment that said that certain normatives are normal and that's how life should be like, but you don't understand how it could be affecting other people. So, let's define patriarchy in this video. My definition of patriarchy, what I define as patriarchy, and you can disagree with me, which is fine, but it's a system of power that is implemented in society and where a group of men control women, the general population of women, and where those group of men control other men as well in the general population. And they establish the normatives of our collective society. This is not to say that men are evil, all men are evil, or it's all men's fault. Because, as women, there have been women in history that have done some pretty fucked up shit, and it's not just men, but maybe there are certain proclivities that make you a little more imposing or dominating, that are more dormant in the feminine. And I'm gonna say that masculine and feminine, the masculine isn't just about men. Women can be very masculine and not so feminine, just as men could be very feminine and not so masculine. Is that wrong? I don't think so. But and that's the thing, in the society that we've created, men are supposed to have masculine, what we have named masculine qualities, right? So be strong, don't show emotion, be stoic, get shit done kind of thing. And these are good qualities. These are maybe the don't cry thing. Well, if you're crying all the time, and you're not getting shit done, that can be a problem. But we've named all of these qualities masculine, okay? I don't know why we named them masculine, but that's just the language, right? And we've named certain states such as nurturing and creativity and receiving, being receptive, more as a female, or like not a female, sorry, a feminine thing. We've named these qualities and we've put them in a box calling them feminine qualities. These are feminine qualities and women have these qualities. But the truth is, not all women have feminine qualities and not all men have all of the masculine qualities that we've said, okay, these are all of the masculine qualities men should have. They should not have any feminine qualities. And we say the same thing about two females. These are all the feminine qualities you're supposed to have, and you can't have any of these masculine qualities. So you can't really blend and mix, right? All this says is that we've pigeonholed ourselves into being a certain way, and that's because a group of people who maybe have a platform, who have power, maybe in the beginning, people ask, how did the patriarchy come about? Or at least I've asked myself, how did this system come about? And I've read a lot of things, and apparently the patriarchy came from the agricultural revolution. When we were originally hunters and gatherers, there wasn't this idea of ownership of land or property. And so we were more unattached to the things around us because we weren't settled down somewhere. But when the agricultural revolution came about, it was like, okay, now we have this idea of property. And, if you saw your neighbor who built a house out of sticks, you were going to be a little bit jealous maybe, because your house is made of straw and gets destroyed easily with the wind or with the rain. And now you're going to start comparing yourself to your neighbor because you're settled down and you start creating these communities. But this also has an advantage. Having a community means that you can get more stuff done and you can do more things and not just think about survival, but also think about deeper topics such as our existence and why we're here and all those, philosophical questions that we ask ourselves in our lives, or some people ask themselves. I've realized that in my life now that a lot of people don't really ask themselves these questions and they're just sleepwalking. And I think that's because we've created so many more distractions, because as the years have gone by, as the decades have gone by, as the centuries have gone by, our lives have gotten increasingly comfortable. So you would think that if our lives get increasingly comfortable, we're less concerned about survival and about what we're going to eat in 2 hours or for dinner, right? And we're more, you would think that we would become more insightful, but it seems like right now that isn't the case. At least the society that we're living in the global north, or what people would call the West, right? It seems like we're using that comfort as a crutch, and it's become a crutch. That comfort has become a crutch because we're not using it to self-actualize ourselves. We're using it to become more numb, right? Anyway, so the patriarchy apparently came about from the agricultural revolution, which means that maybe there was, since we started creating communities now and settling down, maybe Joe over there, he was getting better at growing corn and had more yield, and you couldn't grow corn in your little plot of land and you were having trouble, so Joe decided that, he's going to give you his corn if you give him, I don't know, if you give him a pot or something. Like, there's barter, right? There's this idea of barter. I give you this, and you give me this back. So it's this idea of transference, right? Like giving each other something. And is that bad? Is it bad to ask for something in return, something that you've worked hard on, and you want something else in return? Is that bad? I don't think it is. I don't think barter or this idea of money is bad in and of itself, because it's just, I guess you could see it as just an energy that we transfer to each other, and it's this game that we play. We play this exchange game in this reality, and it's just part of it. But some people become so blinded and believe that money and having stuff and consuming is all there is to life, that they get lost and they start to want to hoard all of the resources around them, thinking that that will give them more safety. And if other people are suffering, that means that they're more safe, because if they've got the most stuff, they're less likely to not survive. They're less likely to die because they've got all the stuff. Because other people are suffering, I'm okay. And so people do have that mentality. Anyway, going on tangents here, but they're not really tangents. It's all part of what I'm trying to talk about. The core of what I'm trying to say is, so in the agricultural revolution, we had maybe Joe, like as I was saying in the example, started becoming greedy with his corn, and he started saying, like, I'll give you my corn if you give me, and he started asking for things that were harder for somebody else, that maybe he was asking for, I don't know, I'm trying to think here, examples like 2 bags of flour, and you don't have those 2 bags of flour, and now you have to go trade with somebody else, or now you have to work hard, or so there's this greed. What I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to get at is that there is this greed that comes about, because it's not, you're not giving out of an energy of just giving, but you're giving, it's hard to explain. You're giving for something else in return, but you know that will cost your neighbor a lot of struggle. Anyway, I'm going on a huge tangent. I guess what I'm trying to say is, so we have these groups of people around the world that are mostly men, and yes, there are women in there too, that have established certain normatives in our collective society. And the reason why I brought cultures in the beginning of the video is because a lot of people, especially the US government and other governments around the world, and you see it here in Europe as well, and usually groups like the far right are the ones that talk about this more out loud, but it's been known that certain groups on the left, and when I say the left, it's more progressive parties, certain groups on the left are more quiet about those things, but it doesn't mean that they don't believe the idea that, okay, certain cultures are bad, blah, 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 and they start criticizing and demonizing people that are from those cultures and saying that these people are primitive, blah, blah, blah. But what I've come to realize in my life is that it's not about the culture. It's about how the patriarchy manifests itself in each culture. How the patriarchy manifests itself in the Christianity, in the Christian culture, how it manifests. I'm not criticizing the Christian religion. I don't think the cultures that celebrate the Christian religion, are bad or they're primitive. I don't believe that. I just believe that there are certain groups of people within that subgroup that have established these patriarchal norms and that are bad. It's the same thing with Islam. I'm not criticizing the Islam culture. There's nothing wrong with the stories that surround Islam. There's nothing wrong with, traditions that you have. But what I do criticize is the patriarchy, how the patriarchy manifests itself in Islam. There are certain things within Islam culture that I don't agree with. Not the culture, I should have said, not the culture, what is acceptable in that group, which is the patriarchy, how the patriarchy is accepted and how it manifests itself in that subgroup. Just like in my own culture, right? The American culture, any culture that you belong to has its own patriarchal norms, things that are pretty messed up, right? Every single culture has that. But it derives from the patriarchy. I'm very afraid of getting misunderstood here because I feel like people are going to take this the wrong way and say that I'm criticizing the Islam culture or the Jewish culture or the Christian culture. It's not about the culture. It's not about the stories. It's not about the traditions. It's about the patriarchy and how it shows up in each and every culture. How it shows up. That's what I'm criticizing. It's not the culture I'm criticizing the patriarchy. And the patriarchy exists in my culture and it exists in almost every single culture. You go to France, you'll see how the patriarchy manifests there. The Giselle Pellicot issue, right? And how there's a lot of things you think the French are progressive on a lot of things, but they're not on other things. They're progressive on many things, but on some other things, they're still pretty, they're struggling to, I don't want to use the word behind, but they're just struggling to understand something. Whereas somebody from the outside would say, like, I don't understand why you're so caught up in this ideology. Just like, somebody from Europe, they look at America and they're like, I don't understand how a group of people could do this and this and that or believe this. It's so simple. The solution is so simple because it's just about getting along or something. I don't know. You have these ideas, but you have these ideas as an outsider because it's not part of your culture. But when you're inside a culture, it's hard to see the illusions within your own culture, right? The certain ideologies that make life harder for you. And I think every single religion, without exception, including New Ageism, including atheism, which is not a religion, I know, but it is a belief system. Any kind of belief system, period, can become dogmatic. And that's ultimately what the patriarchy is, right? It's this dogmatic, like, it just pigeonholes you. You're stuck in a box. And depending on what culture you belong to, you're stuck in a unique box in your own culture. So how do we break away from this? I don't know. I don't believe all men are evil. I think there are some pretty messed up individuals out there. But just like there are messed up women out there, and I've experienced that too. You know, I've been backstabbed by women, and not pretty stories, okay? Not just, you know, dramatic gossipy stories. It's like, you know, women can be cruel as well. We can be very cruel, right? And so we all have this darkness when we go to an extreme in any kind of ideology or idea. When we take it too seriously, that's when it becomes a problem. So I guess this whole video is me just trying to explain how these politicians, they're trying to brainwash us into thinking that a certain group of people from a certain country, from a certain region, from a certain part of the world, from a certain corner of the world, they're bad and their culture is bad and blah, 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 blah. But no, it's not their stories. It's not their traditions. It's how the patriarchy manifests itself. It's how this dogmatism, what it is dogmatism, manifests itself in each and every culture, and how it can become extreme. And you see it in every single religion, every single culture, right? Christianity has its dogma, extreme dogma. Islam has extreme dogma. Judaism does too. Hinduism does too. Buddhism does too. New Ageism does too. All of these, when you start falling into like this dogma and pigeonholing people and gatekeeping and just like that's when it becomes a problem. So I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear. I'm sure I'm gonna piss off some people. And they're gonna school me about this and this and that, and I'm just gonna say this. I'm a human being trying to figure this world out just like you are. I don't have the answers. I don't know anything special in particular. I only know my own experience, and maybe somebody else can relate to that experience, and maybe somebody else could feel like they're not alone, because sometimes I do feel alone. Technically, we are all alone because we experience our own individual journey so uniquely and so differently than somebody else. Even if it's somebody that we live with, right? They experience life through a completely different lens. But I think there are certain ideas, or the word is not ideas, but there are certain experiences that we experience as a collective, and that it seems like it's just hard to explain, right? It's like we are I'm lost for words. I'm really lost for words. We are I've used this analogy before. It's like getting a glass bottle, right? And all of the glass on that bottle is unified. But then you break the bottle, right? You break the bottle, and what happens? You start getting shards and pieces, and each little piece, each and every shard is unique. Every shard has a unique shape, and the edges are different, and size, and all of this, right? And the light that shines on each and every shard is unique. Like the light it will emit is unique, no matter how small or how big, doesn't matter. It will emit certain light when it is exposed to the light. But even though we all have our unique way of expressing our light as a shard, if we go and understand, if we're able to understand that metaphor of becoming a shard, and the light comes in and you emit your light a certain way, a certain individual way, but then you realize that you're part of that. Yes, you are the shard emitting your light in a very unique way, but you're still part of everybody else. All those other pieces are also part of you. You're still part of that glass bottle. When you unify and you glue back, if it's even possible, to glue back those pieces, glue back those fragments, you're part of the same source. And that's what we forget. I think we've forgotten that as a collective for sure, because of the society that we've built, the kind of system that we've built. And certain cultures have it better than others, or like, I should say, certain religions encourage this kind of enlightenment, and I hesitate to use that word enlightenment because it's so laden with meaning, right? But it's this idea of just remembering what matters. And what matters is to live fully. What matters is to really live fully and enjoy this experience and all of its struggles and all of its ups and downs and ins and outs and fucked upness. Enjoy the ride. And we forget that. But I think right now we're trying to remember. It's gotten so fucked up in our society that most of us, it takes pain to remember what love is. And I think a lot of us are experiencing pain, not just on a collective level, but on an individual level. We're all in that metamorphosis stage where we're breaking the chrysalis. We're breaking through and we're going to become a butterfly, and humanity is going to move toward, I have a feeling that all of this twistedness that we're experiencing will have a good outcome. And we're constantly evolving, just like, 300,000 years ago when we started roaming around this earth as Homo sapiens, as hunters and gatherers. We had ideas that we obviously today, 300,000 years later, we don't identify with our hunter-gatherers, but they had wisdom about certain things that we have forgotten. But we also have wisdom about certain things that they didn't even know existed, right? And I think that even though we're in this very twisted era, we're far more wise than our ancestors. And I guess that sounds very pretentious, and maybe it is. But we have just so many resources now that a lot more people can wake up, so it's not just insulated. The truth isn't, or the search for truth isn't just available to the elite or to a group of people. It's available to everybody. And I think that's what literacy did to our society. Before, it was the priests or the clergymen that knew how to read, and you couldn't read the Bible, so you didn't really know what the book was actually saying because you couldn't read. And so you were ignorant about a lot of things, because how do you know the priest is telling you the truth? How do you know he's not twisting and lying about a certain passage just to control you? And many times that's what happened. And I think that's what's happening now, hundreds of years later. The truth is becoming more available to more people, and we're starting to wake up. So it's not just available to a certain group of people now, and that group of people was usually using that knowledge for their own self-interest. But now that we're becoming more aware of what really matters and what kind of world we want to live in, I feel like there's this big shift that's happening. But this big shift is kind of shaky. Like, we're in the earthquake right now. Like, fuck, what do we do? We're kind of there, and the earthquake is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, until like everything is destroyed and something new comes out of it. And when you think about birth, and I've talked about this in other videos, birth is a very ugly thing. When a mother gives birth, I've never given birth, but I know people that have given birth. I've never seen a live birth, but I know the gist of it. Or if you've seen, okay, yes, I've seen a cow give birth. If you see a cow give birth, it's a painful, or a human being to give birth, it's a painful process. There's blood involved, there's the placenta, there's like all of this pain, not just for the child that is coming out into this world and experiencing light and noise and this and that, and it's so confusing. And it's also painful to the mother, right? Like creating that life and bringing that life out is a painful, uncomfortable experience, right? And this happens, this birth process, this pain is part of the renewal, right? What comes out of this pain is new life, like better life, hope. And a lot of people say, oh, well, hope is a very dangerous word because you can hope forever and live in la la land and stuff like that. But if you're able to see something, if you're able to see a better world, if you're able to know that there is hope for a better world, that a better world is possible, that a more healthy world is possible, that a harmonious world is possible. If you're able to see that, and enough people believe that a healthy world is possible, that a harmonious world is possible, maybe not a perfect world, we still have struggles, but we're mature enough to talk it out and duke it out in a civilized way and say, okay, you've got your point of view and I've got my point of view, and I vehemently disagree with you and you vehemently disagree with me, and that's okay. But can we come into a consensus? Can we come to a consensus here? I think that if we can all see that kind of world, a world where we have healthy conversations, or that's what predominates, healthy conversations, a healthy dynamic in our species is what predominates. If enough people believe in that idea, then it's possible. Then we can manifest it because we have that power, because we're part of that one consciousness, because we're part of that collective. If enough people are putting that energy out there, that's why group prayer is so beautiful. And I have so much respect for all the people when they go to church or the temple or the mosque and they pray. They pray for a better world, and they pray for their world to be better as well. And that's good too, right? Because when your world is better and you're happy, you want to make the world happy as well. But when you're upset, when you're miserable, and you see other people around you that are happy, well, you want to make other people miserable because you want them to make you feel your pain. You want to feel, you're asking people to show you what love is, but the way that you're trying to ask for help is through inflicting misery on others. Whoa, it's a long conversation here, but what I was trying to say is that prayer is so important. That's why I have so much respect for cultures that partake in prayer and group prayer to make a better place, to make a better world. And that does have power. And that does have, that can influence the world. That is, we all have our own personal magic and our own personal power, but when we put it together for the good, we can make something beautiful out of it. And the same thing can happen to create something bad. Okay, a lot of people don't believe in good and evil, good and bad. But the idea of bad, when we think of bad, these are all ideas, right? Good, bad, these are all ideas. When we came out of our mother, we did not know what good or bad was, right? We did not know lying is bad and being truthful is good. We didn't know that. All we had is a vague sense of our intuition about how we felt, a vague sense of, okay, this makes me feel shitty, like taking another kid's candy and making him cry makes me feel shitty, so I shouldn't do that. So we have when we're young, when we're very, very young, we have a very simple way of interpreting the world through our feelings. But then as we grow older, that changes and we start putting ideas on them and rules. But anyway, that was a tangent because this concept of bad is defined in our society as something that inflicts suffering on another or makes their lives harder, makes their survival harder. That's what we would consider bad. So what I'm trying to say is, if enough people want that kind of life and are praying for the kind of life that inflicts harm on others and greed, it's all about greed and having poverty in the world so that you could have more and more and more and more and more and more you. If enough people are praying for that, that is also the kind of world that we can create. And so, things are coming out in the media. It would be redundant for me to name them because everybody knows. Things that you thought were from a movie scene or just, science fiction or just a really bad horror movie are actually true in our reality, in the kind of society that we've created. But we can create something beautiful. If enough people believe that good is possible and good will prevail, and like I said, just like bad is an idea, good is an idea as well. But when we think about good, we think about things that help us to remember why we are here. And why are we here? To live fully, to enjoy the ride, to accept the struggle and the pain and to face it, to face death, to be okay with it, to be okay with the suffering, not the suffering, the pain that comes with death. Death is painful, right? To have someone close to you die fucking sucks, okay? If anybody says it's a pleasant experience, fuck, they should go get some help, in my opinion. Because it sucks. Because we grow attached to the people around us. We build this community, and that's a beautiful thing. We build this community of people that hopefully uplift us and make us better people and help us on our own journey. So when they die, or maybe they didn't die, but you've just parted ways, it's so painful. And it's painful because there's this grief of, like, okay, that chapter has ended and now I have to start something new, and the new is scary sometimes. This new experience is scary. It's like being born again, you know. It's having new friends or making new friends or finding a new partner or just going into another stage of your life, but you don't know how to navigate this new stage in your life, so you're kind of like scared. And you grieve what you had. But part of that grief is love, you know. It's just, you realize it's all love. Even the bad. And that's so hard to see, trust me. That is so hard to see when you've been through some fucked up shit in your life. Or if you're going through it right now. It's so hard to see the love. But that's the challenge. That's the challenge. Seeing the love amidst the pain. And I'm no expert on that. I'm still learning how to do that because I've still got my shit to figure out. But there's this saying in French that I really love. And if you translate it, it's little by little, the bird builds its nest. And I think we're all doing that no matter what stage of life you're in. We're always building our nest. And of course, some people have got bigger nests than others because they've been here for longer. But they never truly stop building their nest until they die, you know, and you start again, you start your nest again. But it's even when you've been here for many years, you're still adding sticks to your nest. You're still trying to fortify it and make it stronger and keep it sturdy, you know. So we're never truly done until we are, and then we start all over again, or who knows what happens next. Maybe we build something completely different in the next life, if there is one. I don't know the answers. But all this is to say is that, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words because I'm having trouble putting what I understand into words without totally confusing somebody. But if you've come this far, wow, I admire you. Thank you. It's been 43 minutes. But if you've come this far, it's because you resonate with what I'm saying, okay? Or maybe there's something that you disagree with, and that's fine, but you resonate with some of the things that I'm saying. And that'll give you some tools for your own nest to make your nest sturdy. You don't have to agree with everything I say or with everything Ram Dass says or Alan Watts or this or that, or David Hawkins, you know, all these people. But they did give you tools to make your nest sturdier. You know, take what matters, leave the rest at the doorstep kind of idea. So we're all doing that, or we all should strive to do that. You know, to try and help others on their journey. But you realize that we're all here for a temporary amount of time. And so that idea is scary sometimes because you don't want to lose, like I said, you don't want to lose your support system because you're afraid. You're ultimately afraid of dying, right? You're afraid of your mother dying or your partner dying because you're afraid. Yes, you're you're sad because you would lose them and because you wouldn't have them physically to give them a hug or to embrace them or to just talk to them. Yes, you're going to miss the physical presence, but there's this deeper pain that you don't want to confront, and it's that pain of heartbreak. But that heartbreak is love. You have that heartbreak because you loved. And that's a very beautiful thing. You have that pain, the heartbreak of losing somebody or the heartbreak of no longer being with somebody because you loved. So the pain is beautiful. You just don't, you don't become like the people that start to over-identify with the pain and the pain becomes their identity. Now that becomes a problem. That's a completely different story. How do you transform that pain? How do you alchemize that pain into something beautiful, into something unique, into a lesson that allows you to understand yourself with a capital S more? The self that is aware, the awareness, the I. How does that pain help you kind of like, expedite the process? The pain is kind of like, it's kind of like the harsh, brusque push that you give somebody. Like, it's like, duh, do it. And you're kind of like, I have to experience it. I don't want to experience it. And you cry and you grieve and it sucks and you're bitter, but that's part of it. That is part of it. That is part of love too. But a lot of people don't want to experience that pain. And that's because it sucks. It fucking sucks. It takes so much energy. I understand why people don't want to experience that pain. Because it takes so much fucking energy. It's tiring. Okay? You want to be smooth sailing. You want to be drinking your martini in front of the beach or whatever you want to be doing. I don't know. I don't even know what martinis are. I don't really drink. I drink beer, but I don't know any cocktails and stuff like that. So whatever your happy place is, the pain is tiring, it's exhausting. But it's also necessary. It's the necessary push that we need in order to get closer to the truth, your authentic truth, your true self. And I think with all of this technology that we have today, it's so easy to forget. It's easy to forget our authentic selves because we become so distracted, because we put our attention somewhere else that is not within. We put our attention outside. And that's what if you sum this whole conversation up, that's what the patriarchy is. That's what it's trying to do, distract us so that we don't remember our own personal power, so that they can remain in power. Because if we all just realize that they have no power over the people, then they wouldn't have power. Yuval Harari has this interesting idea of intersubjective consciousness or something like that. Intersubjectivity. If enough people, like the concept of money itself doesn't have any value. If you give $100 to 2-year-old, he's not going to know the value of the $100. He's probably going to put it in his mouth, play with it, rip it, crumple it. You know, he's going to do all these things because he doesn't see the value until he grows up and he's lived in this society that tells him, oh, you got to take care of those $100 because they're going to get you stuff, you know. But because enough people believe in the power of money, it's got power, right? It's got value. But it doesn't. If enough people believe that it didn't have value, then it wouldn't have value, you know? So it's the same thing with the kind of life we're living as a collective right now, this capitalistic society that we're living in, where it's just work, consume, work, consume, work, consume, work, consume, work, you know? It's this cycle of consume, work, and you'll be happy. Consume, work, and you'll be happy. Consume, work, and we fall into that. We fall into that cycle. We're all guilty. Some people fall in hook, line, and sinker. Other people, it takes a little more coaxing, but we all fall into those lies that we're told by a group of people that understands the power of the mind, understands the power of the collective mind. If enough people believe it, it's possible. What they don't want you to know is that enough people believe that a better world is possible, that's fucking possible too. Because all of our minds connected, all of our consciousness connected can make a difference. Okay, and if you think this is woo-woo, maybe it is, but I do believe that when you truly believe that the world can be a better place, you're more motivated to do good things for the world, to do good things for your neighbor, to do good things for the people you live with, to do good things to help them, to make their lives a little easier, and to support them in their own growth, just like they support you in your own growth. So, yeah, that's possible. So, start believing it, people. Start believing that a better world is possible, okay? Start believing that we can make a better world. It is possible. This is possible, okay? Yes, and that's why they try to bombard us with so much bad news, because they want to make us feel hopeless. That, you know, the world will always be hopeless. And if you're putting your attention to that all the time, then yeah, that's what we're going to manifest. And I hate to use the word manifest because then people are freaking going to associate me with the law of attraction and shit like that. But, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, that's what's going to show up. Okay? It's going to show up. So, if enough people believe that better world is possible, better world is possible. Sorry for repeating myself, but maybe the message needs to be repeated. Okay? Not all hope is lost. Believe that this moment, this crisis we're going through as a collective species is necessary for us to grow. Okay? Don't fall into dogma. Don't fall into, always question everything, but not with the internal intention to prove your own point of view or to fall into confirmation bias, but just truly be curious about everything around you and be open to the different possibilities, right? Just be open-minded. Just be open to the idea that you don't know everything. Peace and love. Bye. Sorry for the long video.